Second house, yours is so much more.
Way. I think it's because I accidentally put this thing on the wrong side.
No, but also like I can't see Jack on your screen.
I can't see sitting next to you. When I sit behind you, I can see the screen. Like if you
No, see,
even like.
I wondered if it's because I have the mat side out. I don't like looking at reflected screen.
Oh, I didn't even realize it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and bring the meeting to order. It is 3:30, and so let's see. Mr. Garza did ask for an excused absence. He was granted that excused absence. Mr. Brown, that takes us to our meeting minutes. We have meeting minutes from both the 10th and the 24th. I do believe you were present at both, so you can move over.
I'll make a motion to move both meeting minutes as is.
All right, there's a motion on the floor. Further discussion? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Awesome. That takes us to public comment on agenda items. I do believe everybody is here for a specific agenda item, but if that is not the case, and you want to speak to any of the agenda items, we will give you up to 3 minutes on a first come, first served basis. Do you have any takers? Yes.
Actually, I wanted to say, sorry, Keith Wesolinsky was in the.
Sure, we appreciate you.
I was at the council meeting on Monday,
Right.
and, Councilmember Hussein, you did a phenomenal job, not only just handling the situation that was there on Monday, but also just the attentiveness that the entire council had towards the individuals who were speaking. Just again, probably on public record here, so that's good from that standpoint, but a phenomenal job of what you guys are doing back there behind the table.
We appreciate that. Yeah, so we
That's
certainly share with our comments. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Any others? Seeing none. That takes us to, let's see, discussion action item. Our first item. Oh, we do have, is that Brent
Well,
Wheeler?
he.
He's actually here for an item. So we're gonna take him. Yep, sorry. And he is here for item G, but there's nobody else on there?
No.
Okay, perfect. Sorry. I'm not used to having anybody virtual. So we do have an ordinance. This is repealing and replacing the existing sign ordinance in its entirety. You may recall, this is actually the second time now. We're looking to push this out of committee. Did have some changes after our initial public hearing. We decided as a committee that it made sense to send back to the planning commission and then to establish a new public hearing. That new public hearing will be September 9th. What we did in kind of an agreement with economic development and planning is we decided that we will also have it up for approval that night. And so if we don't hear any substantive concern, if there are any outstanding questions, that type of thing, we can then move on it later in the night. Okay. With regard to planning commission, I may have just missed it. This did go back before the planning commission, Andy?
Correct.
Okay, and there were no concerns?
No.
All right, so we just need a motion, and again, we might pass this as early as the night.
Motion.
There's a motion on the floor. Further discussion? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That takes us to item D. Alex, I think we're good, but I certainly appreciate you, Ms. Washington, the board. You guys have been fantastic. And of course, what we're talking about is Lansing Gateway Corridor Improvement Authority Development and Tax Increment Finance Plan. It's been a long time coming, right? We got started in 2019, creation of the corridor. Improvement Authority worked to populate it. I think 2022, 2023. The development and TIF plan are done. It is a 15-year plan. Lots of, I think, great projects in the plan. The TIF plan is exciting. And so, again, we are at a point where we did have a public hearing on Monday. There were no concerns out in the community. When we talk about this, all we're hearing is, utilizing the tools we have. And so that's what we're trying to do. Did you have any questions or comments, Mr. Brown?
No further.
Mr. Watkins, did you have anything to add?
No, that's it.
All right, thank you. Mr. Brown, need a motion?
Make a motion.
There's a motion on the floor, and if approved, this will go out before the council for the September 9th meeting, correct? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That takes us, to item E. This is the resolution, Brownfield Plan number 81, amendment number 1, Neogen expansion, 720 East Shiawassee Street, 703 East Michigan Avenue. Talked a lot about both in committee and out in front of council that since the approval of Brownfield Plan number 81 back in 2022, size and scope of the project's grown considerably, and that we're also ready to start project 2, or phase 2, I should say, of the project. We appreciate everybody that has been with us, that has presented, that has been available for questions and things of that nature. At the public hearing, most of the comment was in support. There was one dissenter, and that dealt with Teamsters and an election and a hearing that is forthcoming before the National Labor Relations Board. But outside of that, in terms of content, do you have any questions or concerns?
No further questions?
Do we have anything, Carl, to add?
No, sir.
No Neogen folks, nothing to add? All right. So, Mr. Brown, we need a motion.
Make a proper motion.
There is a motion on the floor. Further discussion? All right, that's approved. Again, this will go out before council on September 9th for final consideration. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That takes us to item F. Okay, so this is actually new. We have an Act for 2024, purchase of property of 2300 South Washington. Who is here to speak to this in terms of staff?
I can.
Come on up. You got it. Come on up. So, yeah.
Some to Mr. Benker as well.
Right, perfect. So what we're gonna actually do though, Andy, is we'll start with you.
Sure.
Talk to us a little bit about what this is, and then we may ask, I know we have some questions, right? And we actually had some questions posed by the public on Monday. So if you want to go ahead and talk to us a little bit about it, we'd appreciate it.
This is a request to purchase property at 2300 South Washington to facilitate the parcel combination with the city-owned 2500 South Washington Avenue. In my staff report, there's an aerial, and you can see the two parcels. One was the old media center, and that was owned by the city. But this kind of overflow parking lot, I believe, police and public service use that as overflow parking, was actually owned by the Lansing Building Authority, which is a separate entity that Mr. Benker can get a bit more into those details. This essentially will just kind of facilitate the building of the public safety complex, because buildings cannot be built over property lines. I believe they have started site work, but I don't think they have started any other construction.
Right.
So this just facilitates that construction, and all the other purchase details were handled by the mayor and Lansing Building Authority. But Planning Commission had no real concerns. They just kind of saw it as something that needs to happen, and they voted unanimously to approve it, recommend approval, excuse me.
Andy, the purchase price you said is, oh, you didn't say, but it is in the notes.
It's not in their purview to review the purchase price, but I believe the resolution states $300,000.
How did we come up with that number?
I would defer to Mr. Benker.
Give you historical information.
That'd be awesome.
When the city was contemplating places to put the public safety campus after the millage had passed, that was one of the sites centrally located, et cetera. And McLaren had a parking lot there, and they had sort of been interested in selling it. And I don't know all of the details of the negotiation of the price, except that
Right.
I think they had listed it previously at general market for more than that. And they approached the city and said, we'll sell it to you for 300,000. And the city said, yes, please. Or rather, the building authority said, yes, please, because they needed to move rather quickly from McLaren's standpoint. And that was the purchase price, and that was the price paid. So it's really just a transfer of property and funds for the exact dollar paid by the LBA back to the city. And part of the, I guess, part of the reason to not just transfer it directly is this is one of the things that the bonds, the millage that was passed and the bonds that were sold with that millage pledge are specifically authorized to pay for acquisition of property. The 300,000 building authority has a very small amount of, I mean, I guess I'd call them discretionary funds, but a lot of their funds are tied up with the parking system. And they had the money, but the city anticipated being able to use bond funds to essentially buy it from the building authority. And that's the background on that.
Councilman Brown, do you have any questions?
No question. Thank you for the explanation.
Yeah, that does help. That was, I mean, obviously that was the question.
Yes.
So,
And I can promise you, I mean, the building authority actually spent $306,000 because they paid the closing costs, but they would not, I don't think anybody's interested in that part getting reimbursed, so.
yeah. All right. If there are any public comment, seeing no concerns from the gallery.
Proper motion.
All right, so motion on the floor for the discussion, seeing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. All right, that takes us to item G. This is the resolution of introduction and setting up a public hearing. Very quickly, just in terms of dates, if we get there, we would introduce this on the 9th. We would set the public hearing on the 9th for September 30th because there are noticing requirements. But again, this is, let's see, 3724 Pleasant Grove Road. This is a rezone request, R3 suburban residential to MFR multifamily residential district. Andy, we're going to start with, I would assume you?
Yeah.
Okay, and then we'll turn the floor over to our virtual attendee, Brent Wheeler. Okay. All right, Mr. Peter, go ahead.
Just as you stated, this is a rezoning from R3 residential, which is a single family residential, to MFR, which allows for multifamily. It's just a hair under an acre. Generally, I'm supportive of infill housing and densification. But either way, we still take a critical look at these kind of requests. We want to make sure that whatever is proposed is compatible to the surrounding neighborhood. That's quite a big jump from single family to multifamily. This is proposed to be 10 units in row house form. So I would point to the aerial, and there is a 20-acre row house development just to the west.
Colonial Cooperative is what that is. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then directly north is the Lansing Fire Station, and directly south is a BWL substation. So this won't be directly, it will be across the street from single family, but it won't be directly adjacent to single family. So that alleviated some of our concerns about, raising that density. Because it is not next to single family residential on the north and south, and it is comparable development pattern to the property to the west. Staff was supportive, and so was Planning Commission. They voted unanimously to recommend approval. There was some comments on the number of parking spaces. They're proposing 25 parking spaces for 10 units. Mr. Wheeler can speak more to his how the units and what he's who he's marketing towards, but I believe it is three bedroom units and families. So maybe the increase in parking, 20 spots is what's required. So this is a little bit above that, but it might be suitable, for families, for visitors, and then we don't have to worry about on-street parking in the neighborhood, because we know that's a concern with everyone pretty much citywide.
Right.
So that's pretty much the basics, but Mr. Wheeler can speak more to the specific on his proposal.
What is the, so you talked about surrounding land use, you talked about surrounding zoning. What about master plan? What's it called?
So that's a good point. The comprehensive plan calls for low density, single family, this entire area. And I did mention that in my staff report. There's a bit of a disconnect between what it proposed and what actually has existed historically, and that is that those co-op. So multifamily has existed in this area and in other places nearby, but the comprehensive plan does not reflect that. I'm not sure why. So while I did take that into consideration, I believe it also meets other master plan objectives, such as infill housing, meeting the current housing demand. So we do have interest in more units, compatible residential infill, like I said, diverse housing choice. So this allows another housing choice besides just single family in this neighborhood, and middle housing dwellings, that is 2 to 6 units. This would be 2 buildings of 5 units each. And it's also located near transit. Pleasant Grove and Mount Hope, just to the north, they have bike lanes, and they also are on bus routes. So this does hopefully would alleviate the need for vehicular use. Hopefully people are using bike or bus, but I can't speak to how that actually will play out, but the option is there in this location.
All right, before we turn it over to Mr. Wheeler, Mr. Brown, do you have any questions for Mr. Fidawala?
No further questions. I appreciate the explanation. Makes sense. I think you to the point of the comprehensive plan, but then you addressed that by that this is not was not incorporated in it, even though it's a reality. So that was a few of my questions answered. Thank you so much.
So, and again, the only thing right now on this site is one single family home, and that's
Correct.
2 miles.
Yep.
All right, Mr. Wheeler, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
All right, fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Can you hear me, Mr. Brown? Yes, we can hear you. Hope all is well. We appreciate you being with us.
Thank you.
You're doing really well. Were you able to hear Mr. Fidawala's presentation?
Yes, I was.
I don't know if there's a lapse. Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic. Here's what we're going to do. I'll talk really slow, and then hopefully you'll get the message by the time I'm done. We are going to open the floor to you, and we'd like to know a little bit about you, about your company, about maybe some of the projects you've done either in Michigan or maybe outside of Michigan, and then what you have intended for this specific site.
Okay. First, I'm originally born in and lived around Lansing area for most of my life for a good 35 years. I graduated from Dansville High School. I went to Michigan State University. I had lived in Lansing directly on Allen Street from 2009 to 2017. And I own several short-term rentals in the Lansing area, short-term and midterm rentals, Airbnbs, however you want to call them. I travel to Lansing quite frequently to manage those. I also continue to do a lot of retail flips in the area, working with a lot of local contractors. And when just looking at this piece of property that I've owned for, I think, since 2017, when we took a step back and look at it, it just didn't make sense to keep it as a single family house when it was surrounded by multifamily. And given the area, I just thought it would be a good use to try to put some new additional units onto that particular parcel.
Fantastic. And then, so with regard to this, what is it? So it's 10 doors situated over basically like two contiguous, whatever. What are we looking at? I mean, in terms of price points, in terms of, I think I heard that we're going to have what, 2 and 3 bedrooms. Are these rentals? Are they condos? Is there a mix? Tell us more about the actual project.
Correct. Originally, the zoning application I put in was for 2-bedroom units, but that was when I think we were proposing to build 14 units. However, when we took a look at the city setbacks and things like that, we realized we could only get 10 units in there. And so therefore we increased the request to make it a 3-bedroom units and then have enough parking spaces to affiliate additional guests and people that would more than likely stay in the 3-bedroom units. As far as the final decision, that has yet to be made as far as whether there be rentals, whether we sell them as individual condo units. All that's going to come down to what the cost price per square foot and how much it's going to cost to get it engineered and things like that. Right now, we're in the very beginning stages of just seeing whether or not we can get this rezoned to multifamily.
All right. Mr. Brown, do you have any questions?
I guess thank you for providing that update. I guess my question would be, what have you done in the past this size, or kind of what is your passion? So I know that you've indicated that a lot of decisions are based on cost per square foot. But what, I guess, is your company's kind of focus, or what have you done in the past? Where's your passion at? What would you like to see, ideally?
Okay, right now, the thing we're most passionate about is creating really nice short-term and mid-term rentals. I'd be happy to share with you our website of the properties in Lansing, Michigan, so you could kind of see what those look like. As far as new building and new development, I'm going to be joining up with my brother Derek, who is also a Michigan State grad but now lives in Boston. He has extensive experience of building multifamily units. He's built them all over the country, from Murfreesboro, Tennessee to Orlando, Florida, up and down the East Coast. And he'll be kind of my go-to expert on this. But if we do get approval to do multifamily, my initial thought would actually be to either sell 5 of the units individually as condos and keep the other 5 as a midterm rental spaces. But again, that all comes down to what the final numbers and costs were, and we just aren't sure of those yet because we didn't spend the time to research that until we got approved for the multifamily.
Said you had a website?
Yes, if you go to capitalcityvacay.com, you will see 8 short-term, midterm rentals all located within Lansing, Michigan. Fully furnished. We provide all utilities, cable, internet. We take care of everything, and they perform pretty well from a rental portfolio.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
All right. So Brent, you and I, we were able to talk on the phone. I certainly appreciate you and your brother being accessible. You indicated that when we talked that you would prioritize being here on the 9th. Is that correct?
Yes, I can do that if need be.
Yes, absolutely. That would be amazing. Okay, so what we're looking at, is there any comment, questions? Did you have anything to add, Ronnie? No? Nick? No? Okay, fantastic. So what we're looking at doing is passing a resolution to introduce and set a public hearing, and that would be for the 30th. So the 9th, this would obviously be out in front of council on the 9th. That's when we would have Brent in to do a presentation. And then if approved that night, the public hearing would be set for 30th. Is that correct? Correct. Yes.
All right, well, I'll make a motion.
All right, there's a motion on the floor. Further discussion? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Thank you. Thank you, Brent. We appreciate you. We'll see you on the 9th, okay?
All right, thank you.
All right, so that takes us to our last 2 items. And these 2 items, we are again introducing and setting public hearing because these are pilots, and we don't have to notice quite as far out. These are actually going to be on our final approval or consideration. No, I'm sorry. So the public hearing will be on September 23rd. All right, so I'm going to turn the floor over to Raleigh. We're going to start with you. Absolutely. All right, so let's talk about payment in lieu of taxes for Riverview 220 apartments.
Sure, and Doug's passing out a presentation, and so I'll keep my comments short and sweet, and they'll apply for both.
Okay.
First, want to state on the record, certainly for those who've been on council and have gone through this process, to clarify, this is not a pilot request for an October 1 deadline, so there won't be any special requests to change or move anything further. Doug will get into the financing type as to why that's not the case. So we have the time. Didn't want to surprise folks on that end of things. Also say for the record, both of these projects already have received an administrative 10% pilot request through the city of Lansing. Again, I'll defer to the Housing Commission to explain why we're here today in terms of requesting a lower amount. You see included, I believe, hopefully you've received my 2 staff reports. In general, We're supportive of both, and I put a couple comments in the staff report. Just wanted to point out for both, which is when we ask the assessor to do a financial analysis, they do consider the estimated taxes as fully developed without a pilot, and then they run the numbers with the requested pilot, and in this case, it's a 5 for both. I did put a note, it doesn't include the number, but to know that both of these projects already have an administrative 10. And so that should be something that I would encourage you to consider when making this request, because I know that has been a contentious item in the past of what could be in lieu of something else. And so regardless of the decision made on the 5, know that the city has already granted a 10 for these two developments. Outside
So
of
when I report out, Raleigh, just because people do need to hear those.
Yep.
I'll also report out on what the 10% is.
Yep, and I can get you that number. I just didn't have it in time.
Okay.
Yep. Back from the assessor's office. Outside of that, you'll see that our office has completed our review and are supportive of the request as we were a year ago.
And you're speaking just generally to both? Is that what you, okay, perfect. All right, we're going to turn the floor over to you, Doug. And then so what will happen is you can kind of talk about both of them, and then we'll move them respectively for the public hearings. Okay? Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The presentation I put together for you real quick, we'll just talk about both projects. Riverview 220, which is on the corner of Grand and Kalamazoo Street. And then the other one is about a block and a half down. It's actually a parking lot that's just to the east of the old Lansing State Journal building. That's the location. They're both downtown locations. If you go into project or page 3, we talk about Riverview 220. You can see the actual look of what the building will look. And I think, as you all know, we're going to be right next door to the new city hall, which will be right there. This particular project's a $23 million development. We got a 9% tax credit allocation about a year and a half ago. We've been working on closing since then. We are also reinvesting some of the sales proceeds from the sale of our houses. We have $4 million in the deal ourselves, meaning the Lansing Housing Commission will be contributing $4 million towards the deal. There's 56 affordable units there. They're 2 and 3s, which is where we see daily our critical need is of more family units than there are 1-bedroom units, although we need 1-bedroom units in the city as well. This is a unique project in that it's the first multi-use project in the city, in that we will also have 7 market rate units, 4 2-bedroom, 3 3-bedroom units as well. And then we have about 2,000 feet of commercial office space that will occupy that corner up on Grand Avenue. So there'll be a little retail down at the bottom down there. Hopefully, a coffee or sub shop to sell to all of you guys when you run into your meeting real late and you got to get something, you just run over to our building, grab it, and run in the backside of City Hall and go from there. But we got a couple of years to figure out what we're going to put in that. Right now, it'll be built out, obviously, as a white box. From a green energy standpoint, we'll meet what's called the NGBS Silver plus Net Zero. We have to do that as part of all Michigan tax credit deals. They make us adopt a green program in which we'll build the project. So anything on this project before I move to the second? This next page is actually a rendering of what the building will look like, just real briefly.
So I see that. Can I just ask one question?
No.
I see that you so in terms of your offices on Cherry Street, are you moving those as part of this or no? Okay. All right. Just curious.
We're renovating our office. It'll match this decor. So we're in the process of doing that. We're gonna build a garage, a maintenance garage over on our side, plus renovate our building probably beginning next spring. There's also kind of a unique deal that the bottom corner that goes to the northeast, there will be a rooftop community space up there too, overlooking the Grand River. It's going to be a really nice space that you don't typically see in affordable housing, but we're kind of excited about that part of it as well. So, and the next one's just a rendering. Any questions on that building?
You said, excuse me, you said green space. I don't see this. Am I missing?
See, what's that?
You said something about green space.
Oh, it's a green certification.
Oh.
There are building certifications that you have to be green, using green products. It's primarily going to be an electric only building. There won't be any gas in the building. So that's one of the certifications that we have in order to do that. So we're working with the federal green standards of building standards is what it is. But there is also a lot of green space. You can see the bottom of the building. If you look at that first picture in the block view down there, that is that corner of the building is in the floodplain, 100-year floodplain. You're not allowed to build in there. So we have some particular development ideas down there for that green space that's along Cherry Street. So that'll be the area between what is our current office and this building. So that is in the floodplain, and so we're not allowed to build there, which is why we pushed the building kind of up the hill, because we had to in order to get out of the floodplain. So there's some special stuff that we have to do down there in terms of plants and some other stuff. So there will be a considerable amount of green space as well as green development on the east side of that building. Yep. The page 5 is just a breakdown, a little bit about what Raleigh just talked about. You can see the numbers in thousands in terms of what the estimated taxes paid today on the property if it remained in its current use. And as you know, it's an old Davenport building that's boarded up. It's an eyesore. I look at it every day out my window. And then the next line is actually the Riverview 220 new construction. We put in there the pilot taxes. And then below that, because we'll have some market rate units in the commercial space, there's going to be some ad valorem too. So the market rate units and the commercial will not be eligible for the pilot. Only the affordable units are available for the pilot. So those additional 7 units will be paying ad valorem, as will the commercial space. So then we just show on the bottom the net benefit to the city over our 20-year analysis based on Raleigh's department would be about $468,000 of additional taxes on that property over 20 years. So other than that, unless there's questions, just go to the next one.
No, I think we're good for Grand Vista Place.
Okay, very similar, Grand Vista Place. You can see the location of it. It's going to be, most of it will be along Grand Avenue and then extend a little bit back to the east there. You will enter this building off of Cherry Street. So they'll come around that side to get into this particular building. This is a 4% LIHTC deal that we also have secured with MSHDA. We are also reinvesting about $3 million into this building of LHC funds to support this as well. You can see this is all affordable. There's 54 affordable units there. 11 of them will be 1-bedroom units, 36 2-bedrooms, and we have 8 3-bedrooms there as well. We have a little different green building program here. It's called the NGBS Silver. It's very similar to the other one. There's a few nuances between the two, but basically national green standards.
So you just said 54, presentation says 55, is it 55?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
it's 55, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever my staff said, they're right. So don't believe what I say, believe what my staff did for me here. And then Grand Vista, there's a picture of that. It's very similar to the other one, just a little different color scheme than the other one. Again, on page 8, we have the same kind of tax implication to the city. What that would be, estimated paid taxes today on the lot versus what it'd be. This one would net about $630,000 to the city versus its current use as a parking lot. And again, we use the analysis of the city. So very similar data, just on the other building. Page 9, the last page, is just a little bit about the bedroom sizes in terms of size, what they would be. They'll look like what the market rents would be, what our projected rents would be versus what the market rents. Remember, when we subsidize units, we have to use what's called fair market rents. We don't get to use market rents. So it kind of shows you the difference of the two different rents. Remember, also our residents will only pay 30% of their income in the unit as they qualify. The rest of it is paid through a subsidy that's also being provided by the Lansing Housing Commission. And that goes for both properties. And then income eligibility, you can see on the other side, we go up to 60% AMI, and it just kind of gives you an idea of who would qualify to live in the building based on the income that they make. So just for a little FYI of what the current income standards are. So I had a board meeting at 5:30. When I saw your agenda, I thought I might be late for my board meeting, but man, you guys fly through this stuff. So,
A lot of this stuff, it's like the 7th time.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So I tried to keep that brief. So if you've got additional questions, I'm glad to answer them.
For me, it's pretty straightforward. The only question I would have as chair is, just as I invited Brent, would you be able to be with us on the 9th?
Yeah.
Okay, so what we'll do is right at the beginning, like we always do, we'll do a special presentation.
Okay.
And then we'll consider later in the night. Okay, in terms of setting that.
The 9th at Cal, right?
No, city.
Oh,
council.
at city.
Yep,
Council.
it doesn't have to go to council. It's coming out of there.
All right, gotcha.
Will this presentation be different?
Well, yeah.
Not substantially, unless there's additional questions between now and then that you want addressed.
If there is, we'll need it by noon on the 5th.
Can you email it?
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, no worries.
If he emails, I'll forward it to you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
That way they can put it on the TV.
All right, Mr. Brown, did you have any further questions?
No further questions?
No, I make one add,
Yep.
just so you know why we're asking, because I know a question will come up between the 10% and the 5%. Right, we coming back to the 5% now. When we model these with Mishta to start with, this was back 2 years ago,
Right.
2.5 years ago, when we originally modeled it. Obviously, inflation has been significantly different from when we modeled it and when we thought we could do it with a 10%. But as we did that modeling, as we got closer to actual closing, and just so a timing standpoint, we'll close on this in mid-November. Deconstruction would start right away. We'll tear down the building by the end of this year. And then other construction would start first quarter of 25 in terms of going up after we get the stuff tore down. But, you know, there's been a lot of cost changes, and in order to just, when we look at the 20-year pro forma from what we looked at 2.5 years ago and what we're looking at now, we just feel that in order to make the building work, that we really needed a 5%, and that's why we came back. So we originally thought that we could do it with a 10%, but we were really looking for the city's participation in this, if we can get them to where we share it. So.
All right, no further questions. Anybody in the room have anything to add? Seeing Mr. Brown, we just need, so we're gonna actually move these independently of one another. So why don't we go to H first?
Motion for resolution H.
Okay, so there is a motion on the floor. Further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And then we need the resolution for Grand Vista.
Motion for resolution for Grand Vista Place by Hunter Black S.
All right, so there is a motion on the floor. Further discussion? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Any other